Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
JJ Messenger, yes, another member of the Midnight Society. It is always beautiful to watch you make your way into the Fox Den for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Yet please, I've been sleeping for so long, I need to feed. Absolutely delicious. And now that JJ has freed me from my shackles and I can feel my power oozing through my veins, it is once again time for JJ Messenger and myself to take a walk into the darkness. My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back once again to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. It is always good to see that our blood preferences align for everybody. And again tonight, we have JJ Messenger, who was on a little bit of a hiatus, but he had some things to take care of, and now he's back, ready to roll. JJ, my dude, what have you been up to?
Oh man, I've been busy. I've been arranging for local media, a radio station, to give me an interview. And now that we're coming near Halloween, it's something that local media would be more interested in. You know, they need an excuse to talk about the unusual things. So Halloween season is September, October. It's a prime opportunity to get these stories out there and to talk about the research. And I've been looking into cryptids and how they're interrelated. I'm primarily a Sasquatch researcher, but I'm thinking there's a lot of crisscrossing. And a lot of what we call Dogman is crisscrossing into Sasquatch territory. And with the missing 911 phenomena that's prevalent throughout this country and other countries, we need to be on top of the research of what's going on with national parks, missing people, and how there may be a cryptid tie-in.
Well stated, and it always cracks me up when you call it the missing 911 because, like, it really is 911 help, but the missing 411, same difference,
Did I
right?
say 911?
Well, I mean, it really is, right? Help. So it just always, tends to crack me up with that. And speaking of the whole Halloween season, I don't know if you got a chance to check it out or if I sent it to you, but I am by far not a musician. Yet when I did hear the Steve Cook song, The Legend, and I'd known about it for quite a long time, super intriguing, updated me about some really strange encounters. But you know what, I got to thinking, because one of my friends, Drew from Speaking Code, he's a musician and does some pretty cool stuff. And he was like, "Hey man, I got an idea for you. You need some copyright free stuff. I'm gonna make you some cool jams." He actually made me like a really awesome dark kind of synth wave, like metalcore, which I believe, hopefully, if all goes well, this Saturday I'll be filming that with my little brother and turning that into a live music video, but I did a folk song like Steve Cook's called Lore. And I covered encounters from Maine. And my friend Drew did the background beat. I got to send that to you. Check it out because I want to try to get that around. You know how Steve Cook's song got played on Halloween? I would think that would be pretty cool if I could get that somewhere where someone at least gave it a listen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is the time of year to do that. Most definitely.
For sure, right there. So I'll have to toss that to you. And before we dive into, yes, Russia tonight, we've been on a kick where I've covered some Chinese encounters, some from Japan, and I do have one from Vietnam. Yeah, it's only kind of a shorter encounter. So in the future, I can touch base on that. But we are actually going to head over to Russia because, again, everyone seems to really think that the Dogman started in North America in 1887. False, because if you actually read old newspaper articles, 1865, there were sightings up in Maine. That seems to be older than the 1867. So wait a second, where's the love for Maine? I believe that's an older encounter, right? Everyone just wants to always throw that. It doesn't have any history. It's all over the place. Again, like I've stated with Chinese culture, super intriguing history, some of the oldest history, if not, I believe, the oldest civilized culture in the world. Their history is not as easily accessed as others, but when you are able to read it and hear people speak about it, that's when I was introduced to that super old art where I've mentioned this before. I do not know if Chinese soldiers at points in time wore armor that looked or resembled samurai, or if the Chinese artist was depicting actual samurais in this image, but super old. And there's these jet black wolves behind the samurais with glowing eyes, or the Chinese soldiers. As I said, I do not know. I know that ninjas were Chinese based at points in time and samurais, but again, I don't know if Chinese soldiers wore armor like that at points in time, which I assume maybe they did. So I would need somebody that was more prevalent in that type of identification to be able to verify what it was the Chinese artist was depicting, but it was Chinese art. So boom, you have that right there. And that's super old right there. And then recently, Jody Cook just sent some really old maps from Antarctica that he stumbled upon that, wait a second, they have dogmen on them. And these were done by like early settlers.
Are you kidding?
No, I
Holy
can send them
mackerel.
to you. They're copywritten in regards of I don't fully know who owns them, so I can't really mess around with that and put that up there unless I have created an image through AI or someone such as yourself submits things, etc. I can show all those, but yeah, I'll toss them over to you. They're also up on the website, so if anyone does want to see those, we have everything up there. But whereas with YouTube, just got to be careful with putting up stuff like that because technically I don't know. The original people that made that are obviously deceased, but maybe somewhere 100, 200, 300, 400 years down the bloodline, maybe some relative has a problem or something. I don't know. I don't even know if that's
Oh,
realistic, but I
yeah.
can't take a chance. I
You
will
never know
toss them
when
to
the
you.
copyright. Yeah, you
That's
never
just what
know
I'm
when the
saying, man. It's
copyright.
it's no good to wake up the next morning after you just put some hours in on work and then to get a nice little notice from YouTube informing you to take down a video or change things, which pretty much just destroys the video. So I will
Mm.
send it to you though. And like I said to everybody, it is up on the North American Dogman Project website. But again, boom. I mean, and we want to go to some even more bizarre things. Everyone knows about the cynocephali. Okay, so you got the Greeks and Romans all kind of making references to this. Ooh, what about the Aztecs? Aztecs have art with what looks to be a dang dog man with cool feathers and armor on. I don't know where'd that idea come from.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cross-cultural similarity, obviously, between ancient Europe and the ancient Americas. And it makes you wonder about, the trade routes and whether they were actually going across the ocean. I mean, the similarities are just astounding.
Yeah, it's super bizarre. And like William White, part of our science team was saying, our geologist, is that if you look at the petroglyphs, there is pretty much all these skinwalker art from Utah all the way down to like in Brazil. It pretty much runs from north to south. And it's just really strange and interesting in regards of that for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that goes way back into ancient American lore.
Yes, it does. And I know you, before we dove into these, wanted to speak about basically my opinions and your opinions on what's occurring in national forest in regards of is it just cryptids or etc. And it's up to you if you'd like to speak on the topic first. I toss you the mic, or if you'd like me to speak, then throw it back at me.
Yeah, well, I was just brainstorming. It's not like actual detailed research at this point. But I was brainstorming on the fact that ancient Native Americans, that they had the two varieties of forest people that they would speak of, the rather non-aggressive, gentle giants of the forest that they would trade with or communicate with. And then they had what they would talk about as the cannibals, the ones that would consume human flesh. And that made me think of reports of dogmen and how they behave, and that they would be more likely to, to fulfill that role as cannibal, as something that would consume human flesh. What are your thoughts that perhaps the cannibal stories reflect upon the ancient dogman mythos? You there, Starfox?
Yeah, it'd probably help if I unmuted myself, eh?
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, no, I muted myself, man, because I was making noise in the background, and then I responded.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in regards of, I can't really. That's more for my science team, I suppose. In regards of getting a clarity-based answer on that, I do know cannibalistic tendencies are just part of cultures in the past, but I also do know it is scientifically proven that you can't consume human flesh or you unalive yourself. It just doesn't work like that because of the neurological damage that you do to your neurological system, and they get tremors. It's documented in any culture that's ever consumed flesh consistently, all comes down with the same side effects and basically just unalive themselves. Okay, so when it
Ah,
comes to, I would say the terminology, but I can't say the word. Anyone can look it up. It's the disease, but until I can pronunciate words properly, I'm not going to spew them out. Yet, when it comes to predators now, okay, all predators are cannibalistic for the most part. I mean, not every single one of them, but, grizzly bears eat grizzly bears. Wolves will eat other wolves. Coyotes eat foxes. Wolves eat coyotes. They're all part of the canine family. And bears are part of the same family as bears. I think every species of spider and shark is cannibalistic. Reptiles all are, crocodiles and anacondas and things. But again, now you're not talking about humans, okay, that are, it's just different in regards. They don't deal with those side effects that come with consuming flesh that like a human would. I mean, yeah. So, like I said, that's something that's more, I guess, based for my science team, I guess, for myself. But in regards of what's happening in the national forests, my opinion on that is I've spoken about it before. I do believe there's a lot of things going on before we definitely head over here into Russia. And by the way, the disease is called Kuru. Now that I can say this properly, Kuru is a rare and fatal brain disease that was transmitted through ritualistic cannibalism among the four people of Papua New Guinea. This disease is caused by eating the brains and other tissues of deceased relatives, as well as other members of the tribe to show respect. Some of the symptoms of Kuru are loss of coordination, difficulty walking, tremors, abnormal involuntary movements, stiff limbs, muscle jerking, sudden mood swings, demented and eventual placid behavior, inability to speak, unresponsive to surroundings. The average incubation period for Kuru is 10 to 13 years. Okay, so that means you could be doing this before it even hits you, okay? But incubation periods of 50 years or even longer have been reported. Usually occurs within 1 year after the first sign of symptoms. There is no treatment for Kuru. The practice of cannibalism stopped in the late 1950s, and since then, the incidence of Kuru has been decreased dramatically. Yet, in every known tribal aspects that cannibalism was occurred, Kuru also exists.
wow. How about that? That's incredible. I'd never heard that term before.
Yeah, so I mean, right there, it's just fact. You can't. I mean, it's an infectious protein. Yeah, like I said, I mean, even if you were doing some sort of ritualistic thing here or there, you're still in line to get that. I mean, even people that eat apes and things in other countries end up getting strange diseases. So, I mean, that's definitely something more based, I guess, again, for my science team. Yet, sure, when people are missing in the national parks, I do believe that there are a few different things going on. Misfortunes, meaning they are hit with all of a sudden a flash flood or they slip and fall because, like our spelunker that works with our science team, Meku, has said, unfortunately, they find bodies of people all the time in shallower parts of the caves that have been hit with like just weather inclementations or landslides or maybe avalanches, etc. So that's occurring, obviously. And then you are having, sure, known predators and such that are attacking people, which they're not just definitely going to amplify. And then on top of that, you do have the caves where people are missing, okay, and the cryptid sightings, sure. And then you do have potential feral people being involved. Not so much the old school ones where people have spoken about that back like in the Tennessee times. There's more people that want to live off the grid now that hence would still be feral. And I don't think they are consuming people, but if they see your backpack or you have a weapon or clothing and all that stuff, they might just smoke you and push you into the cave somewhere or something, or feed you to their dogs, I don't know, and then just take your gear and such. So sure, that's going on. And also you have people that are serial unalivers that are on the loose. And I believe I saw something the other day that it's believed by officials that there's at least 13 to 20 active serial unalivers in the United States just at the moment. And I recently saw a Hulu documentary about an elderly gentleman. Sure, yeah, because that's what he was. That would walk around with his dog in pretty isolated parts of the forest that were trails that at certain times he knew people would be coming up them, and he would look for people like women and men that didn't look like they could defend themselves, and he would use the dog as a tactic. As soon as they would turn around, he would hit him in the back of the head with a billy club, and yeah, he got caught, but he had smoked a ton of people. So I do believe that's occurring as well, and people at the end of the day should realize the worst monsters in the world are not cryptids or predators. They are human beings with the things, the atrocities that we do. Sure, yeah, cryptids are involved with taking people, but you're just as much in danger of some psychopath out there, coming to get you as well.
Oh, totally agreed. I mean, there is no predator more dangerous than us, than Homo sapien.
No,
And
just look at what we do, man. Yes.
oh yeah, yeah, it's the weak and the vulnerable. You can't have children or elderly or single women out there hiking the trails. If you're going to hike, folks, go in a group. You know, and don't let vulnerable people, those that would be seemingly a prime target for, as you call them, unalivers, to target you. It's horrible out there. It's very dangerous world. Terrible.
No, it really is. And I actually, before we read these Russia encounters, I've never really shared this with anyone except maybe my little brothers, because just until I started putting more thought into it, I never really took it as anything else besides a dumb decision on my behalf. When I used to act and model, I was down in Boston doing some stuff for Abercrombie and Fitch, and this was before we had really, or before I should say, I had a really nice cell phone. I had kind of like junky one and didn't have a GPS in with it. And I believe my grandparents' car that I was with, they're old school, so they had maps and things, yet not an actual GPS. But either way, I got lost on my way back, took a wrong turn. And when I did try to call my grandfather, the reception was awful. And I pulled into this gas station and I saw someone's license plate that had a Maine license plate, some dude. And I asked if he was heading back to Maine. And he said, yeah, he was. And I was like, well, can I follow you? Because I have no idea where the heck I'm going. And he was like, yeah, so this is the last stop for quite a long time. You might want to fill up. I did, but not enough for what was about ready to ensue. So as I'm following this guy, and I'm still trying to call my grandfather. He ends up going through these really remote parts of these mountains that were going through all these older, I don't know if I should say older, but campgrounds where you could just see like the setup kind of where you could pull in there. It was obviously some sort of camping area at a point in time. I don't know, like I said, if it was open or not. And then this guy's like driving kind of super fast, and this is going on for quite a long time. And I'd be trying to call my grandfather still. And as I finally did get a hold of him, he is like, "What the heck? Like, where are you?" And I was trying to explain like this campground and stuff and like the mountains, and he ended up naming where he thought I was. He's like, "What the heck are you going that way for?" But then my phone cuts off. As I'm sitting there still following this dude, I see again, as he had stated, the sign that there's no gas or stoppage for the next like 30 miles or something, or maybe it was even more. It was a long dang way. He's just speeding, and now I'm kind of getting a little nervous, and I'm like beeping my horn, kind of like trying to get this dude to like pull over just for a second to be like, "Yo, what the heck are we doing, dude?" Like, and nothing. And he's just still driving. And then I kind of pulled up beside him a little bit, beeping my horn, still driving. Doesn't even look over at me, just keeps driving, dude. I'm like, okay, what the heck? And I'm following this dude still, and now it's dark out. It's super dark. And again, these campgrounds are just kind of coming by. And this dude's going like 50 through this like mountain range. Finally, we ended up coming out to like a area where you could see there were street lights, and it was like a small little town in Maine, but it was like their little main street. So there was a gas station there or whatever. There was people around. So I ended up pulling in because I was like, "What the heck, dude? I wanted to say something to this guy." He gets out of his car and starts walking towards me. So I don't know. I just kind of opened my door because if something wasn't going to happen, I'm at least going to be standing up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just going to like have my window down in my car. He ends up putting out his hand to shake my hand, and I can see at this point in time his other hand's just sitting down. He doesn't have any weapon or anything. I shook his hand. He holds onto my hand for quite a long time, and he goes, "I highly advise to you next time, you probably shouldn't just trust some stranger to get you home." And I was like, "Well, thanks for getting me back. I'm here, correct, right?" And he just didn't say anything, let go of my hand, got in his car, and drove off. So I don't know if that dude was some sort of messed up individual. I have no idea, but it was such a strange experience that I'm pretty lucky to an extent that maybe he wasn't a maniac and that wasn't the most intelligent decision. The whole moral of the thing that ties in with the missing people and things is never trust anybody, especially if you're putting yourself in a situation like that.
Oh, that's a creepy story right there, Ken. Oh my God. Yeah, yeah, you never know what's going on inside another person. You never know what they've done, what they haven't done. Very creepy stuff right there.
Yeah, because honestly, I could have became the missing right there. I mean, yeah, sure, I can defend myself and such, but it really doesn't matter if someone just tases you real quick or hits you up with some sort of needle that has something that just paralyzes you quickly. I mean, sure, that's how those things happen, unfortunately. But yeah, I figured I'd share that with you before we dive into this Russia encounter. So this first one is 1902. All right, everyone cut me some slack here. There's going to be some hackage in this pronunciation because I am not Russian. Okay, I can barely speak English, right? So, all right, it's 1902, Zhidov, Russia. Two young girls, 5 and 13, were surprised by an enormous wolf-like canine animal a distance away outside their village. Suddenly, the strange animal grabs the 5-year-old with hands and begins running away on two legs with the other arm using for stability what was holding the little girl. Mortified, the 13-year-old ran back to the village, screaming. Shortly after, a large search party was dispersed. After 3 days, they find the 5-year-old girl in an animal den, sitting on a large moss bed. And she said, "Mr. Bear had me here to be comfortable." They look at the 5-year-old and ask her, "Who's Mr. Bear?" She claims, "The animal. He fed me berries and nuts, while also fetching me water. But after a few days, this large bear became very unhappy with me. So they take the girl and they return to the village. A few days later, a large wolf and also a strange bear were shot in the area where the girl had been abducted. Both animals were claimed to have a very human like appearance.
Oh man, that's like a grim fairy tale from Hades right there. That's pretty creepy. Now it's amazing she survived and had this tale to tell. That's incredible.
Right? And what's so bizarre about that too is that you have those cases here in America with the little girls being put in dens, and like my friend Deborah Hatchwell from BBR Investigations and Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. We and some others believe that Beast or Mr. Wolf has no intention of being kind to that individual. They're just feeding them to, as you said, a Grimm's fairy tale, like a Hansel and Gretel. Okay, what do we do on Thanksgiving? Yes, sure, this is nefarious if you really think about it, but when you stuff your chickens and things, you put cranberries and berries in there, and you flavor up the meat. So if you're sitting here feeding this child berries and all this such, you're just getting her ready to go num num num.
Getting ready for the fatted calf to be served, at a banquet.
That's
That's
my
an
thoughts.
unnerving
Yeah.
thought.
Yes.
Oh,
That's just my thought. I mean, as I stated, because there really is no other reason, for them to really keep that child there. And also, in every case, the child says after a few days that the thing all of a sudden becomes terrible towards them.
yeah. How strange is that? At first, you're thinking, "Oh, what a sweet story," and
Yeah,
then it
right.
transforms.
I got this one last one for you too that will actually really add a little bit more insanity to the aspect too, some more darkness. 1926, Volga, Soviet Union, in a remote part of the forest, a secret Russian laboratory has been experimenting on animals and humans. Rumor is they have some sort of hybrids. Randomly, an order comes from the high up command chain to eradicate all staff members at the facility who are unaware of this order. The majority of the staff were shot, and the chief biologist, Eli Ivanov, was exiled. Miraculously, a few members of the facility somehow escaped and went on to spread the news as to what had just really occurred in this secret military facility. They also claimed numerous test subjects were let out as everyone was fleeing in an attempt to stop, slow down, or unalive the soldiers. The surviving scientists said they were creating human like canine creatures by implementing body parts and other disturbing mannerisms and abominations in an attempt to build a super army. The survivors then continued to explain how the creatures were kept in separate containers and that they had successfully crossbred numerous apex compatible predators and were attempting to move the facility when suddenly the attack occurred.
Wow, that's like Hollywood right there. That would make quite the horror movie. Um, with crossbreeding, from what I understand, it's not that easy. Like you could have two different species of primate that are very, very similar, but they can't crossbreed. So I'm not sure what the Russians would know that to break these barriers of crossbreeding. What kind of knowledge they would have.
Again, so true. And that's something that my science team would know a lot more. But at the end of the day, also, I think that with these encounters or stories, there might be some embellishment as it's been passed down, meaning that maybe there wasn't any sort of crossbreeding. I do know that the Russians have tried that before with Stalin, and he was trying to implement ape DNA into women and vice versa, and it didn't work. And I don't know how many times he tried it, but they pulled the plug. So, yes, it's been done before. Yet, as I mentioned, just personally, from a scientific aspect, my thoughts on the whole entire thing before I let you go is that you can All right. In theory, if I was to take your brain and somehow keep your brain attached to your heart and then remove it for just a second, because what, after 60 seconds is it or so, and you lose oxygen to your brain, you become no longer yourself, correct? Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So within somehow a minute of removing your brain and then doing the same thing to this wolf or something, right? I could take your brain out and put it in there. And I guess in theory, if everything was fine still, your brain could connect back up. This is a big in theory, okay? Yet, if you want to talk about a little bit more realistic aspects, that could be done because they've done this. I mean, fish skin, when people are trying to regrow skin, is used a ton on humans and things like that. So in theory, right, if you were to take someone's arm off but keep the neurological aspects twitching and then attach a bare arm or something or a metal arm onto that, all right, sure, we're talking about a little bit more realistic aspects right there because we're not talking about actually trying to, again, as we've mentioned, breed humans and things that aren't capable of doing. But if you're, like I said, somehow able to keep the host alive, unfortunately, I have, just because I like to learn, and well, history is super interesting, but also super effed up sometimes, depending on which side of the history you're seeing. Meaning, when I was watching some of the Russian history, it's pretty effed up in regards of how I think it is, but I guess to them in science, it was groundbreaking, but they would do really messed up things like take the head of a dog, chop it off, but yet keep it attached to an air machine that was basically like the heart still, and this head of the dog and things. They could put citrus and other things in front of it, and his tongue would still come out. It would smell it. So technically, it was still alive. Bizarre. And then also, they chopped the head off a small dog and then chopped the head off a large dog and put the head of the small dog on it, and it was alive. I don't know how long it stayed. Bizarre stuff, but
Oh, yeah. And they're doing that to the animals with the ultimate hope that they can do it to people. You know where it's leading. You know why they're doing those experiments. So you're talking about some real Frankenstein stuff going on here.
it's so messed up. And to be quite honest with you, again, before I let you go, I am okay, if people want to say it and I don't care, whatever. Sure, call me a tree hugger. I don't care because I respect nature and I love animals and I don't hurt animals. And as stated earlier, there was a big spider that came down from the ceiling. It looked super cool. It was white with black stripes, like a tiger kind of. I picked it up, got it in a cup, put it outside, whatever. I just respect and value life, and I think human or animal, everything has a right to be here. Whereas people can be like, "Oh, well, this is my house, this is my area." Well, I hate to break it, that area was built in an area that animals live too. So, either way, animals and everyone have huge, spirits, just like we do. Like I have, as stated numerous times, a pet squirrel I love to death. I have a pet chipmunk, okay, that lives out back. I love some of the neighborhood dogs. I just couldn't even imagine doing those things to animals and such. It's just beyond twisted in my mind. I don't care like what level they were trying to figure out. I just don't see any sort of justification in that. You know what I mean? And same thing when they used to, experiment with makeup and medicines on animals. Again, I have like no tolerance for that stuff because it's just beyond twisted.
It is twisted. I mean, these are helpless creatures that feel, that they feel the pain, they feel the fear, and that anyone who doesn't have empathy for that, they gotta do a soul check, really.
Seriously, my friend, preach, dude. Yeah, it's something, like I said, I just encourage everyone out there, just try to, at the end of the day, just be good people, my friends, and, good vibes. And sure, go ahead, take shots at me again for being corny with good vibes. Because you know what? In the past, I used to think people that were like, no, me good vibes. Sure, whatever. I thought that was corny. But in actuality, it's a true thing, man. Put out good vibes. Just be good people and pay things forward and just try to help people when you can. And help animals, and like I said, just be good humans. And I do appreciate everyone stopping in tonight. And thanks again to you as well, JJ, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come hang out here on Star Fox Radio. And I do look forward to linking up here again in a couple of weeks and touching base on what the heck is occurring for sure.
Oh, thank you, Ken. It was super creepy, but ended on positivity.
Thank you for everyone who once again stopped by tonight for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm, and I will see you on the next one.